Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Native Echo Podcast, where we make English simple and enjoyable. I'm Harper, and today it's just me. Julian is not here today, so it's going to be a quiet, relaxed conversation between you and me, just the two of us. And honestly, I really like these solo episodes because I can just talk to you directly, like we're sitting together somewhere comfortable, maybe with a warm drink, and just having a real conversation. So get comfortable and let's get into today's topic. Today, I want to talk about something that happens in every single conversation, in every language, in every country, every single day. And yet, most English learners feel completely lost when it happens to them. The topic is interrupting people. Yes, interrupting. That moment when someone starts talking and you need to jump in, add something, disagree, ask a quick question, or just show that you are following along. It sounds simple, right? But there is actually a lot going on when you interrupt someone in English. And if you do it the wrong way, you can sound rude without meaning to. And if you don't do it at all, you can disappear from a conversation completely. You just become invisible. Nobody notices you, nobody passes the conversation to you. You just sit there, nodding, understanding everything, but saying nothing. I know that feeling. I want to talk about it honestly today. So let me start with a small story. A few years ago, I was at a work meeting. It was one of those long meetings with a lot of people talking, and the conversation was moving fast. I had an idea, a genuinely good idea, I thought, and I kept waiting for the right moment to say it. I kept thinking, okay, now. No, wait, someone is still talking. Okay, now. No, they continued. Okay, definitely now. And then someone else said almost the same idea, and everyone loved it. And I sat there thinking, that was mine. I was just too afraid to jump in. That is what happens when you don't know how to interrupt politely. You lose your place in the conversation. And in English, especially in group conversations, if you wait for complete silence before you speak, that moment almost never comes. Native speakers interrupt each other all the time. Not rudely, not aggressively, but naturally. It is part of how conversation flows. And when you understand this, everything changes. So let's talk about it properly. Why do people interrupt in the first place? There are actually many different reasons, and each reason has its own set of phrases and its own energy. Let me go through them one by one, because I think this is the part that most lessons skip. They just give you a list of phrases. But knowing when and why to use them is just as important as knowing the phrase itself. The first reason people interrupt is to show they are listening and engaged. This is not a real interruption, actually. It is more like a small signal you send to the speaker to say, I am here, I am following, keep going. These are called back channels, but you don't need to remember that word. Just think of them as little listening sounds and phrases. Things like, mm-hmm, right, yeah, I see. Oh, really? Of course. Exactly. Wow. No way. Totally. I know what you mean. These are the sounds of an active listener, and they matter a lot in English conversation. If you just listen in complete silence, the speaker sometimes feels like they are talking to a wall. They feel unsure. Are you bored? Are you confused? Do you disagree? A few small signals tell them, no, I am with you. Please continue. So the next time you are in a conversation in English and you are not sure what to say, try adding a few of these small responses. You're not interrupting to take the floor. You're just showing you are alive and engaged. It sounds small, but it makes a huge difference. Now, the second reason people interrupt is to ask a quick clarifying question. This happens when someone says something and you are not completely sure what they mean. You need to ask, but you don't want to wait until the end because by then the conversation has moved on and it feels awkward to go back. So you gently jump in with a small question. For this, some really useful phrases are, sorry, can I just ask quickly? When you say that, do you mean? Or, just to clarify, are you saying that? Or, hold on, I'm not sure I understood. Can you explain that part? Or even just, wait, sorry, what do you mean by that? Notice the energy of these phrases. They are gentle. They start with something like sorry, or hold on, or just. That little word at the beginning softens everything. It signals that you are not trying to take over. You just need a second to understand. This is very important in English, especially in professional settings. That small softening word makes the difference between sounding polite and sounding abrupt. The third reason to interrupt is to add to what someone is saying. You agree with them. You want to build on their point. You have something to add that connects to what they just said. This is actually one of the most positive reasons to interrupt because it shows you are engaged and contributing to the conversation. Phrases for this include, oh, and another thing, if I can add to that, yes, and also, building on what you said, right. And I think that is also connected to exactly. And in my experience, something similar happened when these phrases do something clever. They borrow the speaker's energy. They say, yes, I agree with your direction, and here is a little more. The speaker usually welcomes this because it feels like support. You are on their side. You are adding, not contradicting, and the conversation becomes richer because of you. The fourth reason to interrupt is to politely disagree or offer a different perspective. This is the one most people find the most difficult because disagreeing while someone is still talking in a foreign language with the right tone, without sounding aggressive, that takes some real skill. But it is completely possible. And when you do it well, it actually makes you sound very confident and very natural. Some phrases for this. I see your point, but I actually think that's interesting, though I'm not sure I completely agree. If I can just jump in here, I have a slightly different view on that. I hear what you're saying, but from my experience, it's actually more like, right, I understand that. Though I wonder if we should also consider, see how these work? They almost always start with some form of acknowledgement. You show the speaker that you heard them. You are not dismissing them. You are saying, yes, I received your point, and now here is mine. That acknowledgement, even just 2 or 3 words, changes the whole feeling of the interruption. Without it, the same sentence can sound harsh. With it, it sounds thoughtful and respectful. Let me give you a quick example. Imagine someone says, I think we should cancel the trip. We don't have enough time to plan it properly. If you just say, no, I disagree, that is rude. Even if those words are technically correct, the tone is wrong. But if you say, I understand the concern about time, though I actually think we could make it work if we just plan the most important parts, that sounds completely different. Same disagreement, completely different impact. The acknowledgement is the key. Learn to use it every time you disagree. The fifth reason to interrupt is to redirect a conversation that has gone off track. This happens a lot in group settings. Someone is talking and they start going in a direction that is not really connected to the main topic. Or the meeting is running long and you need to bring everyone back to the original point. Or someone is telling a long story and you need to gently steer things back. Phrases for this include, sorry to jump in, but I think we should get back to the main point. If I can just redirect us here, I feel like we might be getting a bit off track. Just to bring us back to the original question. Not to interrupt, but I think we were talking about something slightly different. Notice the phrase, not to interrupt, but. This is a lovely little construction in English. You literally say the thing you are doing, and by naming it, you soften it. It is almost like apologizing while doing it, and somehow that makes it completely acceptable. Now let me talk about something that I think is really important, and that a lot of courses skip. The difference between how you interrupt in formal and informal settings. Because the phrases are different. The energy is different. And using the wrong one in the wrong situation can feel awkward. In informal conversations, with friends, family, casual colleagues, interrupting is much more relaxed. You don't need to soften everything. You can just say, oh, wait. Oh, actually, hang on. No, listen. Hold up. Yeah, but here's the thing. Right, but also, these are fast, casual, natural. They have a light energy. If you use them with a friend, they sound completely normal. If you use them in a formal work meeting or with someone you don't know well, they can sound too casual or even a little dismissive. In formal or professional situations, you slow down a little. You use more polite softeners. You show more respect for the speaker's time. Things like, if I may, excuse me for interrupting. I apologize for jumping in. Could I just add something here? I hope you don't mind if I interject. The word interject, by the way, just means to say something suddenly in the middle of someone else's speech. It is a more formal word for interrupt. You would hear it more in business meetings or academic discussions. And there is also the question of body language, which you can use in a video call or in person. Leaning slightly forward, raising your hand just a little, making eye contact, taking a visible breath before you speak. These are all signals that say, I want to talk next. They give the speaker a chance to pause and hand the floor to you. In real conversations, people read these signals all the time, often without realizing it, and using them reduces the chances of an awkward clash where two people start talking at the same time. Speaking of which, let me talk about what to do when that happens, because it will happen. Even native speakers accidentally start talking at the same time, and what comes next matters. When you and someone else start talking simultaneously, the most common and polite thing to do is to stop and say, "Sorry, go ahead." "No, please, after you." "Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt." "Go on, please continue." These little phrases are incredibly important because they show grace. They show that you are not fighting for the floor. You are offering it. And people remember that. It makes you a pleasant conversation partner. Alternatively, if the other person also stops and offers the floor to you, you can say, "No, please, you were saying?" Or, "Go ahead, I can wait." Or, "After you, I'll add something after." These responses keep the conversation warm and comfortable. Now, I want to talk about something that I think a lot of English learners experience and maybe feel a little embarrassed about. And that is the fear of interrupting at all. I hear this a lot. People say, "I don't want to be rude. I'll wait until there is a pause." But in English conversation, especially in groups, a complete pause is very rare. Native speakers fill silences very quickly. They overlap a little. They talk over each other slightly. It is not aggression. It is just how conversation works in English. It has a rhythm. And if you wait for complete silence, you miss your turn again and again. The fear of sounding rude is completely understandable, especially when you are speaking in a second language. You already have so much to think about: the vocabulary, the grammar, the pronunciation. And on top of all that, you have to time your entry into the conversation. It feels like a lot. But here is something that helped me a lot when I was learning this. Most people will not remember the exact words you use to interrupt them. They will remember the feeling. Did you make them feel heard before you jumped in? Did you apologize briefly for the interruption? Did you contribute something interesting or useful? If yes, they probably won't even remember that you interrupted them. What they will remember is that you were engaged, confident, and a good conversation partner. So the goal is not perfection. The goal is to make the other person feel respected, even as you take the floor. Let me now give you a few phrases that I personally love and use all the time. These are my favorites because they are versatile, natural, and work in many different situations. The first one is, "Actually, on that note." This is beautiful because it connects your interruption directly to what the speaker just said. "On that note" means related to that topic. So you are signaling that your interruption is relevant. It doesn't come out of nowhere. It flows naturally from the conversation. The second one is, "Oh, that reminds me." This is a softer, more casual way to jump in. You are not really disagreeing or adding a formal point. You are just being a human in a conversation, making connections, sharing something that their words triggered in your memory. It feels warm and spontaneous. The third one is, "Can I just say something quickly?" This one is direct and honest. You are asking permission, which is always polite. The word "quickly" also signals that you are not planning to take over the conversation for a long time. You just have one small thing. Most people will say yes to this immediately. The fourth one is sorry to cut you off, but this is important. This one acknowledges that you are interrupting and explains why. You are not being careless. You have a reason, and you are being transparent about it. This works especially well when the thing you need to say really is time sensitive or important, like in a meeting when someone is about to make a decision based on incomplete information. The fifth one is wait, wait, wait. Now, this one is very informal, but I love it because it is so human. It has energy. It says, stop. I need a second. Something just clicked for me. Use it with friends, casual colleagues, people you feel comfortable with. It never fails to get attention in the most natural way. Before I wrap up today, I want to address something that I think is genuinely useful, and it is the question of what to say when you want to interrupt, but English is not your first language and you feel nervous. My honest advice is this: start with the simplest phrases first. Don't try to master every single expression on your first try. Pick 2 or 3 that feel comfortable for you and practice them until they feel automatic. For example, you could start with just, oh, actually, and then say your point. That is enough. It is a small signal that you are about to take the floor. It is gentle, it works. And as you get more comfortable, you add more tools. You build your repertoire slowly. That is how language really works. Not by memorizing 100 phrases, but by making a few phrases deeply your own. And one more thing. Please don't be too hard on yourself when an interruption doesn't go perfectly. When you accidentally talk over someone, or when you miss your moment, or when you say sorry and go ahead, but it comes out awkward. That happens to everyone, even to people whose first language is English. Even in my language, I have awkward conversation moments. It is part of being a real speaker, not a perfect robot. Okay, let's do a quick recap of the most important things from today's episode. Interrupting is a natural and necessary part of real conversation. Waiting for complete silence in English often means you never get a turn. There are 5 main reasons to interrupt: to show you are listening, to ask a clarifying question, to add to what someone said, to politely disagree, and to redirect the conversation. Each reason has its own energy and its own phrases. Softening words like sorry, just, hold on, and if I may make a huge difference. They signal respect and take the edge off the interruption. In informal settings, use faster, lighter phrases like hang on, yeah, but, or oh, actually. In formal settings, slow down and use more polished phrases like if I may, could I just add, or I hope you don't mind if I interject. When 2 people speak at the same time, offering the floor with phrases like go ahead or after you shows grace and makes you a pleasant conversation partner. And finally, start with a few comfortable phrases. Make them your own and build from there. Progress over perfection, always. That is everything for today's episode. I really hope you found it useful. Interrupting is one of those skills that nobody really teaches in English class, but that makes an enormous difference in how you come across in real conversations. And the good news is, once you start noticing it, in podcasts like this one, in TV shows, in meetings, in everyday conversations, you will see these phrases everywhere. And every time you notice one, you are getting one step closer to using it naturally yourself. Thank you so much for spending this time with me today. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe to Native Echo Podcast and give it a like. It really helps us reach more learners like you. And share this with a friend who sometimes disappears in group conversations. They need this. You can also join our WhatsApp community for daily English tips and practice. The link is in the description. We would love to have you there. Keep practicing, keep listening, and remember, you don't have to wait for silence to find your voice. Until next time, take care.